Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, Legend, Non-Classic. This episode number 3362, Doubleshot 3256. I have two IDW trades. First up, this actually is the first of like three trades I'm going to eventually do for Turtles because, well, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles! Yeah, it's basically a few trades this one. First up, it is relaunch from last year. We have TMNT Volume 1, Return to New York. And the writer of this book is Jason Aaron. Yep, brand new writer for this book. I think this is one of maybe one or two books he does now, because he doesn't do anything for DC as far as I can tell. I think for Marvel, I think he recently did a Namor miniseries, but that's been it for him. Because he was able to go to IDW because after he wrapped his Avengers run, his contract, he also basically, it was also his Punisher book too. He wrapped it up too. The reason why he doesn't do any regular books more right now because his exclusive contract ended about a year or two ago, and apparently from her interview, this is a series that he's always wanted to do because he's a longtime TMNT fan, obviously, and I at least can appreciate, though, the fact that he brought a bunch of really good artists in this book. Oh my gosh. And he revealed, first four, each one of Turtles, and get back to issue 5, there's that. This book collects the first 6 issues of TMNT Turtles Volume 2, along with TMNT Turtles Alpha. Yep. So, you have approximately 6 issues. Each issue's got different artists on it. First, you have Chris Burnham, who does the Alpha issue in issue 4. Issue 2 is about Julie Jones. 2 is Ralph Albuquerque. Issue 3 is Cliff Chang. Issue 5 is Derek Rubinson. 6 is done by Juan Ferrer. And that's basically pretty much your characters here. The first issue, Deep South, yeah, it's basically focused on Donatello. By the way, at the end of the previous line, the Turtles all split up. And they all go the separate ways, and basically, this is going to come back together. So, we have Donatello basically being seems like he's like a freak out of some fair, and he's able to, he also has he able to break out no problem, though he gets back in, and then that leads into issue 1, which has Raphael in prison, except that he's actually undercover, because the warden asked to go undercover to expose corruption. But before the corruption could be exposed, the warden got killed. So, yeah, and then Raphael, then the warden is killed, and then the prison attacked by a bunch of hand ninjas. He's able to take him out no problem. I mean, despite being in prison, he's able to basically keep his stamina, and he supposedly is arrested for it, but he's able to escape with no issue at all. He's framed for the murder, and then we have a scene. When I saw the scene again, I'm like, wait a minute, did Jason Aaron rip off Dan Walters with this very scene? We have what appears to be the district attorney, where he's thrown off a bridge in a city, which of course has also happened in the opening issue of Dan Walters' run for Nightwing, where this new DA, who apparently is in the pocket of the foot, proceeds to throw his opponent off this bridge. Oh yeah, and also, these cops have got masks on. For reasons. Moving on to issue number 2. That was issue 1. Issue 2 is basically where, I think this is Michelangelo. Yeah, it's Michelangelo, where he's basically an actor. And he does worry about the stunt double, if he actually hurt him or not. He's perfectly fine. But yeah, he's basically kind of like a celebrity, and of course, they reminisce, basically. And then we see what appears to be, I think it's, it's actually, I can't tell what turtle this is, where this turtle has attacked a bunch of ninjas, and then he's like a slob eating pizza, and then Raphael comes in and, okay, so this actually is Michelangelo, and he's basically rescued by his brothers, who sees him as a lazy slob and, gets his groove back on. and proceeds to fight one of his brothers as a flashback to Leonardo, what he was up to when he was away. Because remember in the previous fight when it ended, he decided to go to Hampton, which is basically where it seemed like he wanted to live in the farmhouse that's owned by April's parents, but he's meditating, and then he eventually is attacked by hand ninjas, which they take him out no problem, and proceeds to get back to New York City and reunites with his brothers. Donatello basically is on the run, and we see he's attacked, because of course, it's a fall off issue 4. Yeah, basically the story from the Alpha issue leads to issue 4. It's basically focused on Donatello, and of course, slowly but surely, and also the fact that so the Foot are in control of New York City. So the DA apparently does not want to take any questions at all. And I'm like, that sounds like a dictator. Yeah. And the hand ninjas proceeded to... The hand ninjas, the foot ninjas, the one of the foot patrol, proceeded to beat up protesters. And then proceeded to fire arrows with basically smoked gas. And then we have people who work in the DA office. Basically, it's like, congratulations. Election too late. Get out. You're all fired. And then you see, look like his parents, obviously, and then they die. And then he meets up with Bebop and Rocksteady, and then Karai shows up. Now, I'm gonna have a couple questions basically when this thing wraps up. We have this weird rat who's a mutant, and basically Karai makes him hate mutants for some reason. And then, of course, we come back to present day, where the foot ninjas are getting the crap beat out by Casey Jones, a character who Sophie Campbell refused to put in her run. Because if you read the entire 50-issue run, he barely appeared in the title. I'm like, it's Casey Jones. Like, what was she afraid of with this character? At least he's featured. And he knows the fact he's able to run this show. He asks, like, where is Karai? According to him, she's indisposed. And, well, and then, of course, basically, where he tries to go after the hammer that he used to kill the mutant with. More fighting with hand ninjas and flashback when he killed his own opponent. And then Casey Jones is shot by the end of issue 5. Six Turtles back in New York. And for some weird reason, Donatello thinks this rat is Splinter. Yeah, and there's a thing with that. And I love the artwork here. It's like, yeah, the Foot Ninjas are obviously in control of New York. And for some reason, firefighters are trying... this one firefighter with an axe is trying to kill Donatello for some reason. April goes to visit Casey, who's in the hospital, and fights everybody. And then they're surrounded by the DA. And then they're accused of murder. And basically, Donatello, it's pointed out by him that that's not Splinter. Splinter's dead. Okay. Very interesting set of issues. Okay, so, for the start of this run, the first question I gotta ask is, where the heck is Shredder? Yeah, we have Karai here, obviously, where it appears she's in control of the Foot Clan. Like, when did the Foot Clan become evil again? I guess Jason Aaron wanted to turn back evil again, and had him basically take over New York. I'm like, that's interesting. By the way, not the first time they've done this. Oh no, they've done this a few times over the years. So, nothing new. Plus, the story itself, Return to New York, is a nod to the classic TMNT story, Return to New York, which is basically the first few years of the title. Which, great for doing that. This is new, the whole thing of them working with basically corrupting a district attorney. Also, apparently, like, oh yeah, we had the 5 boroughs, and Case points out, though, you forgot Mutant Town. He said, you can't erase Mutant Town. It exists. And, yeah, as for why in the world that they're back basically being the way they are, not really clear. Now, in case you're curious, though, like, the whole thing is supposed to be dead. Spoiler's been dead since issue 100 of the previous volume. And I always appreciate, though, Casey Jones is featured in this run, which good on Jason Aaron for buying to remember him. Because Sophie Campbell, if you read that entire 50-issue run, like the first, if you read the first 25 issues of that run, you get maybe 2 appearances of Casey Jones the entire time. And then when the book is close to being wrapped up, he's featured in Armageddon Games, that really interesting storyline, which brought back Tom Walsh's story. Then, once again, he is dropped from the series, and I'm personally very happy he's featured again. Yes, because as a very interesting start for this book, I'm going to give the book roughly a 9 out of 10. A little fun fact about issue 6 for me. That's the most recent issue I read for the book. I've not read the most recent issues. I'm basically behind a lot of comic books. So, there's that. So, next up we have Star Trek New Visions. I believe this is volume number 4. This collects issues 9 through 11 of Star Trek New Visions. Of course, it's a photocomic by John Byrne. So, first story is known as Hollow Man, which basically just has like a No More Team mission where they beam down to, we have another ship here, meets up basically it's a Spock focused story where he goes on a planet somebody he's acquainted with who's engaged in a guy who gets injured, and of course it's very heavily, it's like a Spock solo story, and it takes up, and of course the guy gets possessed by this other thing, though Spock is there to free him, and thanks to his mind meld, he's able to actually store his mind. Okay. And, well, the guy goes off, girl goes off with her husband, and then we have a story focused on Chekhov. Where this is, I'm guessing, presumably, when he first came on board, I would say, because he's wearing a red shirt, because on the show, his shirt was gold. I believe so, yes, because I remember he was transferred. And then we have basically, kind of in a way, this story here is presumably the first time he actually assumed, I believe it was navigation. Because in the movies, he was the weapons officer. Which they had it where the weapons thing was actually attached to the helm, which is basically, if you look at the front of the bridge, the helm is where Sulu sat. Always, a lot of the time, Sulu sat there. So this is a story kind of how Chekhov became a bridge officer. At the pairing, first looked like an engineering, and this is a fun story. Of course, yeah. And then by the end of the story here, Chekhov gets his gold uniform, which is what you see more in the show. So this is presumably set, this story is set before Amok Time. Because he opens his case, which begins by her, and there's his gold uniform that he wears in the show. Which, good on basically for that. And then we have A Woman Born. This story here is a follow-up to an episode featuring the god Apollo. Yes, because I remember in the story that this girl in the story, where she was somebody who Scotty was in love with, which I continue that here. This is sort of a follow-up to that. I think it was from season 2 of the show, this one was. It was a weird episode involving Apollo, where he was an alien. And the fact that Sorcerer's power was basically his temple. After it was destroyed, Apollo just died. Because apparently it's viewed by him that all the gods were dead. And he made him be worshipped, and he fell in love with the girl. And there's stuff happening to her in the ship in the aftermath of this, as they recap the events of that story. So presumably this is set because the first portion of this story here is a recap of that, retelling the last bit of that story. This is basically the follow-up to it. Kind of explains the reason why the character never showed up again, where throughout this, something's been happening to the ship itself, and something's happened to her, and it turns out she is pregnant with Apollo's child. Yes, this is something as a nod to that was followed up in Star Trek New Frontier. Peter David followed up with this character. I believe his name was XO. I believe his name was, because he was like this immortal child of Apollo, and this is like right afterwards, and yeah, she's pregnant for some reason, and then she just gives birth really quickly, leaves the ship, and Scotty and her just politely part ways very cordially. And you could say this story is the reason why it explains why she never appeared again after that one episode. And then we have I Sing of the Arms of Heroes, where we have the first appearance in this comic book of this guy. It's a short story here. It's one page. Who is this guy, you might ask? This is a 3-armed alien, which he appeared in the animated series. Okay, so he never appeared in the live action show he appeared in the live action stuff for the original series. The reason for this character's existence was because they brought back the entire cast of the original series except for Chekhov. For financial reasons, so they created this character, and he was a feature of the show, and her occasional feature they featured by Catgirl. And that's kind of the book in a nutshell. Based on the cover, you think, oh, is Gary Seven involved in this book? Not Gary Seven. Gary Mitchell. I'd say the opening story kind of features him through the whole possession thing, but mostly puts a Spock story. But I thought that was pretty good. I'm going to give the book roughly 9 out of 10. And I'm going to call it a night here because it's at 11 o'clock right now. I have to get ready for work in the morning. So tomorrow I expect to see reviews for Super Tonight. At least one comic book ready to go, along with Camp for Cooking the World with My Absurd Skill. Okay, next video. Bye.